Jahana Hayes, a high school history teacher, was named National Teacher of the Year on April 28th by the Council of Chief State School Officers. She was recognized by President Barack Obama in a White House ceremony and will travel the nation over the next year to represent teachers and advocate on their behalf. Hayes, Connecticut's Teacher of the Year, was one of 4 finalists for the national honors. She has taught at Waterbury's John F. Kennedy High School for 11 of her 13 years as an educator. Having begun her career in the New Haven Public Schools, her students describe her enthusiasm for her work as infectious. Over the last decade, she has taught world history, roots of American citizenship, U.S. history, civics and geography, and African American history. She earned a bachelor's degree from Southern Connecticut State University, a master's from the University of St. Joseph, and a certificate of advanced studies from the University of Bridgeport. Hayes encouraged her students to make a positive impact in their community, and some have joined in her in volunteering for Habitat for Humanity, Relay for Life, and the American Cancer Society, among others. She has also served as lead teachers for Waterbury's after-school programs and has worked to strategize minority teachers recruitment. In the past year, she helped to secure a minority teacher recruitment and retention grant for the district offered by the State Department for Education. She is passionate about mentoring new educators and hopes to initiate a district-wide program. She tells her students that excellence happens in their school every day. Hayes believes her award will not only inspire students to pursue careers in education, but will demonstrate the impact an individual can have. Our students need to know that they have value and can make a difference in this world. This honor makes that real for them, she said. Please join me in warmly welcoming Ms. Joanna Hayes.
I'm afraid to touch it now. Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm so happy to be here. I am just honored by even the ask. I was laughing this morning because I am from Waterbury, which you know is a neighbor to your campus. However, I had to take a plane to get here today because I came from California yesterday. So quite a circuitous way to get to Watertown. I want to talk to you a little bit about, I was very excited, first of all, to be able to speak to students again because I so miss my students. I am so happy to see Waterbury students sitting up there, some of my own students. I love these guys and I haven't seen them, so thank you for coming. I think I want to talk to you a little bit about my journey to Teacher of the Year. When I first was asked by Dr. Lee to come here, last year, she wanted me to talk about service and service learning, but I'm at Taft. I don't think we need to have a conversation about service. I think you guys have got that one, yes? Maybe? No? Do I need to talk about service? Okay. I never, ever imagined that I would be the National Teacher of the Year. The way this program works, people ask me, how did you get nominated? It's not a nomination process. It's about a 2-year process, and it is 3.5 million public school educators in this country are eligible, if you will, for the National Teacher of the Year honor. It starts in your school. I was nominated by my peers initially in my building at a faculty meeting, which was probably the most humbling because you hear what your peers say about you and how they feel about the work that you do. And in order to understand that, you really need to understand the work that I do. I teach all levels, from special education to our college preparation classes. I am in charge of our School of Academic Renown at Kennedy, which is our highest level academic students. And I have some of the most difficult students in the school. My belief is that all of these students can learn. However, that's not enough. Once you have this information, what will you do with it? They have an obligation to go out in their communities and help. People often talk about the leaders of tomorrow. I'm so ambitious, I wanted leaders of today, right now. So I started working with my students many years ago on service projects, and it really became the core of who I was. You know, education is about building knowledge and character. So a couple years ago when I was approached by Dr. Lee here for the GLI, the Global Leadership Institute, I was so excited because she and I were speaking the same language. For once, someone understood what my belief about teaching was. In the Waterbury Public School District, there is no service requirement. Imagine that. So I really had to find a way to get students engaged and involved on their own. And I really started working outside of the classroom. Part of that was because of my own, and I'm going to go through this really quickly because I know that you don't have a lot of time. That's me. Well, and I'll tell you really quickly, I grew up in a very poor part of Waterbury in one of the largest housing projects, and the perception of people who came from this community was oftentimes negative. And I carried that shame with me, I carried that stigma, and I overheard a teacher one time say something about people who came from my community. And I was determined from a very little girl that I would make sure that when I became a teacher, because I knew that I would ensure that students would never feel marginalized in my class, and that they would understand that it is a privilege to give. And no matter how little or how much you have an obligation to help someone else. So this honor has really given me a platform to share that. When I initially started the work, well, I was nominated at my school, and then in the Waterbury Public School District, we have 37 schools, so all of those teachers send their nomination to a panel to be interviewed. I was named the Waterbury Teacher of the Year, and then my name was submitted to the state. There are 169 school districts in the state of Connecticut. At that point, I had to submit a portfolio of all my teaching. I had to go to the legislative office building and teach a lesson before a panel of about 30 people. I submitted letters of recommendation. This committee visited my school and interviewed about 150 students, parents, and community members. It was like an endurance test. If anyone, you guys are probably too young to remember this, but it reminded me of the Senate confirmation hearings when Oliver North was there and all of the senators are asking him questions, and I'm thinking, you know what, forget it, I just want to teach. So I went through all the stages and I was named the Connecticut Teacher of the Year. Every state sends the name of their Teacher of the Year to Washington, D.C. So the 50 states, all of the U.S. territories, the Department of Defense Education Activity, American Samoa, Guam, Puerto Rico, U.S. Virgin Islands, I'm going to miss someone. There's 59 in total. All of those teachers send their recommendation to Washington, D.C. And there's a council made up of legislators, policymakers, textbook companies, Scholastic, PTA, NEA, all of these different agencies that form this committee. There is, at that time, a paper screening. I had to answer all of these essays and all of this information, submit all of those same portfolios, student work to this organization in Washington, D.C., and they selected 4 finalists. The 4 finalists were then flown to Washington, D.C., where we had an interview process, a keynote speech, a cocktail party. And I was like, what is the point of a cocktail party? And then they gave you a couple drinks and started asking you questions. I was like, oh, okay. So needless to say, and I'll tell you really quickly, I was prepared for that one because after I figured out what was happening, I poured the drink in the plant next to me and got some apple juice and kept going. So at the end of the night, I was the only one that was still able to answer the question. So it was actually pretty funny. So through all this process, I kept thinking, there's no way I'm going to make it to the next level. So I was very casual about it because I thought they're looking for something more than what I offer. My whole portfolio was about the work that my students did. It wasn't about test scores or academics. While that is so critically important to me, and I teach my students that this is a part of their high school experience and they need to be the best that they can, I also teach them that once you are as good as you can be, you have an obligation to help someone else do the same. And that's what my portfolio was about. And I really didn't think that that would be enough to be recognized as the National Teacher of the Year, but I was wrong. You know, I found that there are so many people outside of the classroom that found value in the work that I was doing. And it really made it real for my students on so many levels, because here I was telling them that something that is really an intangible. You don't get paid for service. You really don't see the rewards or the benefits of it. It's all intrinsic for the most part. So for me to be recognized on this level for something that I have been doing was so incredible. I want to get to, these are some of the things that my students have done. We have, for the last couple years, actually about 10 years, I got involved. The first thing I got involved with was Relay for Life. And part of the reason for that, I had a group of students who was disconnected, disengaged, and I couldn't figure out why. And after class one day, I asked one of them, what's going on? They were all good students. I had read their cumulative files. They came in with high test scores, yet they were not engaged. And I was like, I'm a pretty good teacher. What am I doing wrong? And one of the students said to me, Haley's mom has cancer. And I says, wow, I didn't realize. She says, yeah, she has stage 4. It doesn't look good. She's in hospice. And she says, but you don't understand. She lost her father just 7 months ago to cancer. And I was like, wow. And the student said to me, so we're all supporting her because we've been through this before. And I said, what do you mean? In a class of 19 students, 7 of them had lost 1 or 2 parents to cancer. So I said, we have to do something. So my class got involved in Relay for Life. We're always, he told me I had a pointer. Yes. We're always doing things. This is actually, I told you I came here from California. I started in New Orleans, so I left last Tuesday to go to New Orleans on a Habitat for Humanity build. These are my students and Habitat. That's me underneath the house leveling the floorboards. We've beautified parks. We are in our community. I want my students to have ownership for the community that they live in. As I traveled the state, there was this perception of what comes out of Waterbury. This is what comes out of Waterbury. I have students who do incredible things, who are invested in their community, who are engaged on a different level, and want to do well. So for me to be able to represent that group of students in this capacity is amazing. We tutor after school. We have this program called Citywide Front Porch Cleanup, where we go around the city and we beautify different areas. I have, this girl is up there. This weekend she was putting siding on a house in New Orleans and this Habitat build. So this is why I believe, this is what I think separated me from the 3.5 million public school educators, because it's not just about grades or academics. For me, it's not just about building knowledge, but also building character, which I know is one of the foundations here at Taft, nurturing empathy, developing this culture of service. So to be invited here, to be able to speak in front of you in a place where you believe what I live is so incredibly humbling. But I also want to share with you, I was so excited, and this morning I went through and I took out a bunch of slides because I want to share with you just what this year will look like for me. So I was named last year in May. I will spend the next year out of the classroom. So it's kind of ironic. You become the National Teacher of the Year and then you don't teach. Well, you do, but at a different level. You travel the world as the ambassador to the profession. So I will spend the next year, when this year is over, I will have visited 43 states and 17 countries as an advocate for public education. Sometimes it's keynote speeches, plenary sessions, sometimes it is workshops. I have worked directly with the Secretary of Education on, the former Secretary of Education. I've been invited to the White House. I digress. This is me with a classroom of girls in Algeria. I visited Africa and I had the opportunity to speak in a country where for the first time in 2014 the law was changed and girls were allowed to go to school. Can you imagine? Girls for the first time at 14 were allowed to go to school. I never realized that there are places in the world that are so broken that really need for us to take what we know and take what we've learned and go into those places. I was in a place where child marriage had just been outlawed, and a little girl came up to me and she said, I am no longer a child bride, I am a schoolgirl. And she said that with such pride, and she said, and I want to be a teacher just like you. I never imagined that there were people in the world who had these type of experiences. This picture over here, I was at a village in Africa. I traveled to Malawi to swear in a group of Peace Corps volunteers who were going to teach these young kids English because they had never gone to school, they had never been educated. I was in a place where there was no running water and no electricity. As I'm driving there, it's about a 2-hour drive, I saw women walking on the road with buckets on their head, and I said, where are they going? And an hour down the road, I realized they're going to the same place where I'm going, and it took me an hour by car. So just incredibly humbling. You heard when I was introduced, I worked on legislation last year to recruit and retain minority educators, basically to diversify the education workforce. Many students never see themselves represented in the schools that they attend or the teachers that stand before them, and that was something that was very important to me. I wanted students to know that you can do whatever it is you want to do, and even if you don't see yourself represented in a particular profession, it's just because they're waiting for you. I worked with the governor, and that's there, where legislation was signed to do just that. The state of Connecticut committed money and resources to recruit and retain minority educators. I have done multiple, Google On Air has hired me to do education talks. I've had over 3 million viewers on some of these talks where I go in and I do different types of activities and lessons for teachers to log in and have direct sessions. When my year started, I told you I had to teach a lesson at the Legislative Office Building. The lesson I taught was on the integration of Central High School in Little Rock, Arkansas. I was able to visit Little Rock and meet some of the original Little Rock 9, so this journey has been unbelievable. But it hasn't been all work. I had a chance to have some fun. So, really quickly, this is funny. So this is me at the White House, which was unbelievable. But when I went to Washington, I think you'll appreciate this story. When I went to Washington, you meet with the White House and they go over every detail of the program. You know, how long is your speech? They want to look at it. They take out a bunch of thes because they're counting the words. I'm like, seriously? You know, they tell you where to stand. They tell you what not to do. And I was just so overwhelmed. So someone turns to me the night before we go to the White House and they say, did you bring something to wear? And I said, of course. They said, can we see it? I said, what does that mean? We want to see the dress that you're going to wear. So I show this to them, and this is the dress that I wore. And they look at each other and they say, you can't wear that to the White House. And I said, I don't understand. He said, it's too busy. It won't photograph well. The colors are too bright. And I said, well, this is what I brought. I don't understand. And they said, well, we can take you shopping. Now, all of the girls in here, I know the seniors aren't here, but even the younger girls are old enough to know that you don't shop the night before for a very important dress. So I said to them, it's fine. I'll find something. I'll figure something out. I show up the next day in this dress. So I thought they were going to pull me off the stage, you know, but I'm like, listen, I was like in tears. I didn't know what else to wear. I'm so nervous. So finally the time came, they said, just go. So we're at the White House for this amazing party in my honor. Amazing. There's a band, there's an orchestra, there's the president, there's this. So I wear this dress, which was like $20 because let's not forget, I am a teacher. So I wear this dress, and as soon as I come off the stage, I have a phone, my cell phone is ringing. It's Gail King from the CBS Morning Show because I'd just been on CBS a couple days prior. And she says to me, I just saw you at the White House. Congratulations, I'm so proud of you. And I'm like, oh my God, like, hello? And she said, I have to know, who are you wearing? And I said, what? So who I'm wearing was Eva Mendes, who saw her dress at the White House. The next call was from her. She says, you have to come to my runway show. And every week since I was announced at the White House, Eva Mendes has been sending me dresses to wear. So this is her dress. Just laugh because they told me not to wear this dress, and I went back to the footage, I go online and I look, every Teacher of the Year prior to me had like a dark blue pantsuit or a jacket and a skirt, so I really was out of dress code, if you will, but I'll take it. I went to a party at the Bidens. Actually, this is the second time I wore that dress. The first time I wore it, I sat next to my very good friend Ellen DeGeneres. Who, listen to me, this whole service thing is really a thing, trust me. I get a call at school, and I didn't want to take the call. My students probably remember this. And I said, they're punking me because everyone knows I love Ellen. I dance in school all the time. I'm the Dancing with the Stars champion. I didn't tell you that. We do. We have a competition at our school, and I'm the winner. And I dance all the time, and I love Ellen. So the office calls, and they say, you have a phone call. And I said, who is it? And they said, she said her name is Ellen. And I said, Ellen who? Ellen DeGeneres. I said, I'm not taking this call. You want me to look stupid. You're trying to punk me. You want me on video doing something crazy. I took the call, and she says, hi. No, actually, she wanted me to Skype her. I didn't know how to do it. My students had to set up a Skype. Whatever. And she said, have you ever heard of Ellen DeGeneres? And I said, maybe. I said, I think so. And she invited me to the show, and I says, how did you hear about me? And she said it was trending on Twitter. And she was like, I'm so incredibly excited about the work that your students are doing. You know, this whole concept of nurturing empathy, which we really don't talk about a lot in school. So I had the chance to meet Ellen. I went to space camp, because as the National Teacher of the Year, you have to know how to fly a fake spaceship. So they sent me to space camp with teachers from all over the world. The picture in the corner is, I was in the airport one day, because I'm always in the airport now. I spend about 4 days a week traveling. And a woman we were in like a, I don't know, what is it, like a newsstand. And the woman is thumbing through the book, and she's looking at the book, and she's looking at me, and she's looking at the book, and she's looking at me, and she says, excuse me. And I says, yes, can I help you? She says, I think this is you. So, and I hadn't seen it yet, but I was in Essence magazine, and I've been in so many magazines since then, but it's always really cool. I was on Face the Nation, which was particularly tricky because I was on a couple days after the election, and I was like, I'm not ready for this one. And I just had to remember, you know, because Face the Nation is a political show, and I was like, I work for kids. I teach students. I teach all students, and that will not change. And no matter how the climate changes of this country, no matter what happens, I believe in people. I believe in the power of the human spirit. I believe in the work that my kids do, and I just, you know, that grounded me and has continued to ground me. He told me not to do that. I was honored on the field at the college football playoff championship during halftime. So this year, and I just went through and picked out some really good ones, but literally I have had so many moments like this. So to be able to share the work that the students in the Waterbury Public School have done on this type of platform has been amazing for me. It has been such a tremendous honor to represent the state of Connecticut, the Waterbury Public School system, the teaching profession, to really engage people in this whole conversation about being of service, to talk to teachers at all levels and remind them that they have an obligation to ignite that passion in their students, to be of service to others, to be celebrated for my work, not only in education, but service, has really been incredibly humbling. People often ask me, you know, what do you do next? What happens from here? And I don't have an answer to that. I didn't know I'd be doing this year. You know, I thought I'd be, what time is it? Right now I'd be teaching US 1, which is what I've done for the last 10 years. So you can't pray for this. You can't ask for this. You know, I just woke up every day and did the best job that I thought I could do, you know, for the students who I knew I was the bridge to their access, you know, and I took that so seriously. I never wanted a student to leave my class feeling that they were not the best person they could be, that they did not give everything that they had, and that I did not value them and respect them as a human being and a person first before a student, you know, and to be honored for that is, I guess, undeserved, because all I did was what I thought I was supposed to do. All I did was what so many of the people in my community had done for me. So many teachers, so many educators, so many mentors, so many people from community centers. You know, oftentimes that doesn't always come from family. You know, I was raised by my grandmother, who was elderly, you know, when I was a young girl, and most of my conversation at home was not about school. You know, everything I learned about school, I learned at school. So I relied on teachers to do that for me. And I haven't forgotten all of those people who stood in intercession, you know, and bridged that gap and opened those doors to opportunity for me. And I really feel like I am obligated to do the same for my students. So I have no idea what happens next. The only thing I do know for sure is that it will happen in the city of Waterbury, because I love that city and I am so incredibly invested in that city, and I believe in those kids, and I can't even look at them now because it's gonna make me cry. But I wish that the rest of the world, actually I am happy to be able to share with the rest of the world the work that they have done and the work that they continue to do, because everything that comes out of that community is not under a dark cloud. You know, when I was approached by Dr. Lee several years ago, she had such a passion for service and so much enthusiasm, and she wanted to bring these two communities together. And I think it has been a learning opportunity for both sides. You know, I think that we have learned some tremendous things from the Taft community, and I think I can say the same. You know, the students who are in GLI who have been exposed to the Waterbury community have also learned. And I think that those lessons are invaluable because you take that out into the world, you know, and I stand here before you as the representative of public education, and on behalf of adults in the world, I want to apologize for the mess that we have made for you and the world that we are handing over to you, but I also stand here confident that you will fix it, because you know what it's supposed to look like, and you know how people are supposed to behave, and you know that the endurance of the human spirit is more important than any amount of money or geography or social status, and you are givers. You have been trained and nurtured to do that. So thank you so much for having me here today, and thank you for allowing me the time to share with you who I am and what I do. Thanks.